Ready? Okay, the Stratford Zoning Commission is now open for public hearing for those petitions advertised to be heard at this session. I believe Alderman Lam, pronounce your last name for me again?
Win? Like the win?
Win.
Yes.
Okay, we'll be sitting in for Ms. Phillips, I guess. She's not here. And the rest are regular commission members. Be it noted for the record, okay, I wish to announce that should any items on tonight's agenda take more time than anticipated, this public hearing will conclude at 11 p.m. and to be continued to another date, which will be established at that time. Any items not heard by 11 p.m. tonight will be heard at the continued public hearing. For the record, petitions to be heard this evening were advertised in the Connecticut Post on 5/9 and 5/16, 2019. These properties were duly posted on May 14th. Mr. Lam, can you read the first petition, please? You're in, kiddo. You're in the game now.
That's line item 1, right?
Yes.
9 Washington Parkway, petition of Little Pub 6 seeking to expand an existing restaurant liquor permit incidental to a motel and restaurants in a WF zone.
If you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Name is Douglas Grabe. My address is 160 Stonewall Lane in Fairfield, Connecticut.
Okay. What was the last name again?
Grabe, G-R-A-B like boy, E. B, yeah. B like boy.
Thank you.
Sure. Mailing certificates
Please.
to Mr. Wynn. There you go. Okay, thank you. Good evening, everybody. We are here today to propose adding an interior bar to the former Marnix Hotel restaurant down on Lordship. By way of introduction, I represent Little Pub Group. We have 4 restaurants in Fairfield County, 1 in Greenwich, 1 in Fairfield, 1 in Wilton. Well, we had 4 in Fairfield County. We had 1 in Ridgefield up until March of this year, and we have another one up in Old Saybrook. So we had 5, we now have 4. We've been in business for over 10 years, family-oriented restaurant, good food, good value, treat people nice. So we have a pretty good reputation in all the communities that we serve. I'm also part of the ownership group that bought the Marnix property, so I'll be a landlord as well as a tenant, to myself. We're excited for the property. We think we can bring a lot to the neighborhood. And what we'd like to do is build a 17-seat bar for the interior. Right now, there is no bar inside the actual restaurant. The only liquor serving area is on the patio, which is a seasonal patio with roll-up windows. So in order to offer our guests the ability to, eat at the bar, watch a football game at the bar, and just generally do whatever people do at a bar, we'd like to build a bar on the inside so we could accommodate, that sort of desire. Other than that, we hope to, move expeditiously and get open this summer. And we're looking forward to becoming part of the community. So that's all I got for you. If you have any questions for me, let me know.
Mr. Henrik?
If you could just help me orient the floor plan. Where is the outdoor seating?
The outdoor seating on the floor plan, so if...
It doesn't show, but...
Oh, yeah, it says outdoor patio. It's, I'm looking at the smaller version of your plans, but...
So this is what I have here?
Yeah.
It's got the bar.
Yeah, so go to the other, yeah, right there, that's where the patio is.
That's the outdoor seating, okay.
That's the outdoor seating, yeah.
Thanks. And then, so the water will be to the, I guess, to the window side?
Yeah, if you're looking at it this way, at the very tip of the bar, that's the water side.
Yep, gotcha,
The very
okay.
end, yeah.
What are the names of your places in Old Saybrook and Fairfield?
They're all called Little Pub.
Little Pub? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. At the suggestion of our administrator here, I happened to take a ride out to your Fairfield location last week and was very impressed. It was a very well-run. I love the decor on the outside. Any plans of doing that to the Marnix property in the future, or?
No, I don't think it's going to lend itself to that sort of look and feel down there. We're going to we're gonna fix it, right? It's sort of a unique looking place.
Right.
We'd like to bring it back to its roots of a 1960s type roadside motel, but it'll be very well done. I mean, so we're gonna try to go retro instead of going modern. We think that that's what that wants to be. The interior will be, not like what you saw in Fairfield, but like what you saw in Fairfield. It'll be, rustic wood and very, very warm and inviting.
Okay. Yeah. Again, when I was there, I was impressed by your wait staff and the way the operation was clean. And, I was told by somebody that you have to check the men's room.
Yes.
If it's clean, it's a good operation. Well,
Yes.
It was clean.
Good. Thank you. Good to hear that.
The only thing that we do request here in Stratford, and I'm not sure if we're going to make it a stipulation or not, we have to carry Kendall Jackson.
That won't be a problem. So we can certainly arrange that, and
Okay.
we'd be happy to do so.
That's the mayor's favorite wine.
Is it?
So
Okay. Then Kendall Jackson it shall be.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Silhavy?
Just in general, I know this is really just restricted to the liquor permit. When Marnix had the permit, we just made sure that the flow of the liquor was contained within the area, because it's down by the beach, by the seawall. And I think we had asked them to make sure that open containers weren't coming out in the beach area there. My only other question that I just wanted to ask is, beyond just the liquor part of it, your general thought for the area, for the development. Is the hotel staying there? Are they still going to do the ice cream service? Is it because it's still a very social part of our neighborhood in Stratford that we want to make sure and try to preserve that as a gathering place for our town?
Yes, and yes, there will be breakfast as well. We've been getting that request quite a bit, but
Okay.
the ice cream is going to have to be relocated because of where it was. It was kind of in a strange spot. So I'll be talking to Jay to see what our options might be to relocate that on the property someplace, because I'm not exactly sure where it's going to be able to fit on the inside. But we'd like to look. I mean, it was there for 65 years. It was part of people's lives. They
It's
got
an
used to.
institution.
Yeah, institution, right.
Yeah.
And so we'd like to honor that and make sure we're doing what people, are expecting to find when they get down there.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Henrik?
Well, just one comment about the ice cream. Hopefully, you're not going to follow some of the practices that led to its demise. And if eliminating the ice cream to make it a more valuable, profitable space, I'm okay with it. My only question is, I'm assuming that you're aware of the noise restrictions, with the sound and music and whatnot, and you're
Absolutely.
okay if you adhere to those?
Yeah, that's fine. That's,
Okay.
you know.
That was it.
Any other questions from the commission? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Anybody here who would like to speak in opposition to this petition? Anyone in opposition? Anyone in favor? Anyone in favor to this petition? Seeing none, motion to close. Motion by Mr. Silhavy, second by Mr. Vacola. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? So moved. Item number 2, Mr. Silhavy.
Okay, petition number 2, 170 Orinoco Lane, petition of Unique Way Incorporated seeking to modify an existing special case approval, removing the condition of approval requiring a $50,000 bond for landscaping and site improvements incidental to an 11-unit condo development in an RS1 district.
Good evening, Mr. Bellis.
Oh, good evening. For the record, I'm attorney Stephen Bellis. I represent the owner, Bluebird Prestige, Inc., that meaning the owner of 170 Orinoco Lane. I have some certified mail receipts I can give to Jay. Right here. There you go. That was easy. I sent a letter to Jay this afternoon, and I don't know if it got circulated. It's short, and I'm not going to read it, but I'll just summarize it. Basically, the reason we're here is that in March of 2013, a permit was issued, a special case permit for this particular property, and subsequent to that, in January 9, 2018, we received a letter stating that the new deadline to obtain a building permit for this project is August 19th, 2019. So we're bringing it to the attention of the Zoning Commission, and as I told Nick, when you have a special case, it's like a special exception permit.
Joe Kubik for Concerned Citizens Group.
Excuse me, Mr. Kubik. Mr. Kubik, you're out of line. Mr. Kubik, you're out of line. Let Mr. Bellis finish his, and if you want to speak when it's time to your turn in opposition, you can. Thank you.
As I was saying, when you have a special case, Stratford calls it a special case. In the case law, we call it a special permit. It's one and the same. They run with the land. In other words, they continue on. They're recorded on the land records, and whoever the next owner is and the next owner, they're still bound by the same special case permit. So when it says that the new deadline to obtain a building permit is to expire on August 19th, I just want to bring out to the commission that I don't feel that that is correct legally. And I gave a case to Jay that was decided by Judge Radcliffe that's right on point. It talks about how special permits cannot expire, and you can't put an expiration date on it. So I guess it's not like the yogurt that's sitting in my refrigerator. These don't expire. The second point I wanted to make was that there was a condition, I think it was condition number 10 in the original approval, and in it, it required a site bond of $50,000 for landscaping and site improvements. And again, the case law, I think, is pretty clear. There was a statute that was enacted that said when it comes to a site plan or a special permit plan, only the improvements that are going to get turned over to the city can be bonded. So if one were going to build a road and then turn it over to the city could ask for a bond. But any improvements that the owner has to make that does not get turned over to the town, then the town can't ask for a bond. I think that this issue went to your counsel. I think it was Attorney Florick, I think, and he wrote an opinion agreeing with what I just said. So to summarize, I'm just asking two things. One, that I just want to make it clear that it's our position that these don't expire. And two, we are asking that you remove the condition of the bond because now there's case law and statutes that say it's not applicable. Other than that, I have nothing else really to comment on unless you have a question for me.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Bellis? Nope.
Does your counsel need a copy of my, Jay, did she need a copy? She needs it. Everyone has it. Okay, no problem. Then I'll sit down.
Thank you.
Okay.
No questions. So are we just treating this like a special case? So is there any?
The application is for the rescinding of a condition of approval. This application that we're voting on has nothing to do with the expiration of this approval. Just to be clear. What the applicant has applied for is to have the 10th condition number 10 from the original approval from 2013, and that's what we advertised for, just to be clear.
So, okay, so this is just on the removal of the performance bond.
This is all, that's all we're doing is condition number 10, which is the removal of the $50,000 bond for the landscaping.
Okay. Is there anybody here to speak in favor of this? Anyone in favor? Now, is there anyone in opposition? There we go.
Joseph Kubik for Concerned Citizens Group of Stratford. Thank you, Mr. Habansky. You zeroed in the point I was trying to make. The prior speaker spoke about a matter that's scheduled for administrative session, not scheduled for public hearing. The comments should be stricken because they weren't appropriate. My clients were under the impression that there would be no testimony concerning extensions of any permits. Of course, we object to that. As far as the bond, we have no objection. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in opposition? Seeing none, motion to close by Mr. Henrik, second by Mr. Solhavy. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? So moved. I have a motion to end the public hearing portion of our meeting by Mr. Solhavy, second by Mr. Vacola. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? So moved. Administrative items. Let's see here. We'll do the administrative, or do you want to go right to the work?
Let's just work through the first two items. We'll work through 9 Washington Drive, 170 Oronoke,
Oh, okay.
the condition approval, and then we'll go through the rest of the administrative.
Okay.
Then Ferry Boulevard, then,
We'll handle that when it's on wherever it sits on the administrative. I believe it's
Okay. All right.
number 7.
I just saw you.
All right, then I'll make a motion to take 9 Washington Parkway off the table.
Motion by Mr. Solhavy. I'll have a second by Mr. Vacola. Any discussion, or, yeah, take it off the table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Mr. Solhavy, you have a,
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the permit of 9 Washington Parkway.
motion by Mr. Solhavy. Do I have a second by Mr. Henrik? Any discussion on the matter outside of the fact that he's going to supply the bar with Kendall Jackson wine?
Do we all get to put our orders in? No, just
Sure, you put them in now. You have particular gin, you know?
No, I just want to say I'm pleased with all the comments. I haven't had a chance to visit their location, as the chairman did, but I've heard very good things. And considering the loss of Marnix, when you talk to folks in Stratford, it was such an institution for how many years, and people always went there for to enjoy our waterfront. Which, if you go through our plan of conservation and development and all of our regulations, we're encouraging waterfront usage and our ability to enjoy that and make it something that all of our townspeople can enjoy. Just by my own history, Marnix for the longest time actually did not have a liquor permit, and it was added during my previous term on the board for table service, again without the bar. There were some initial concerns about how that was going to affect the flow of traffic on the patio area going down to the beach, and it seems like that was not a problem. Especially, I could say that firsthand, having gone down there. So, I think this is a very favorable addition to restaurants in Stratford, and I would urge adoption.
Any other discussion on the matter? Anybody?
You want to comment?
No comment. Mr. Henrik?
So I was on the zoning commission when we approved their outdoor seating at Marnix, and one of our concerns was, like as Mr. Sahavia had asked, moving alcohol from the restaurant down to the beach and maintaining public safety through the sidewalks but most importantly, allowing the outdoors to be used as our outdoor seating is done. They did a great job with that while Marnix was there. Based on the restaurants and the type of business he runs in the other establishments, I think they'll continue to do that. I think it's a great idea to open up. I've always thought that Marnix underutilized the water. I mean, it's a beautiful spot, it's a beautiful location, and to open that up and to allow people to just come and sit and watch and enjoy our ocean front or our sound front will enhance that area, will enhance the building, and hopefully be a great draw for people to come down. So I wholeheartedly support what they're doing down there, and I would, although he said he'd like to see it come into the 60s, I also thought Marnix was a little dated. I'd like to see it, brought into some modern standards, but I understand the whole retro look, and again, he runs a business, and I won't make any requirements as to what type of alcohols he supplies, but that my only hope is that he'll run a successful business and be and be a point of interest for everybody in Stratford and the surrounding communities.
You don't have a favorite tequila you want to suggest?
Not as part of this application, no.
All right, we will not add that as any stipulations. I'm sure he will take care of whatever he has to. Any other discussion on the matter? Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Solhavy, second by Mr. Henrik. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? So moved. Passes 5-0.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Henrik?
motion to take 170 Orinoco Lane off the table?
Motion by Mr. Henrik to take 170 Orinoco Lane off the table. Do I have a second? By Mr. Solhavy. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? So moved. Mr. Henrik?
And motion to approve the removal of the condition requiring the $50,000 bond for the landscape and site improvement?
We have a motion by Mr. Henrik to remove the bond. Do I have a second? By Mr. Vacola. Any discussion on the matter? Oh, Mr. Henrik?
You want?
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I just want to make sure that it's clear in case anybody requests. I think it was laid out pretty well in the document provided that we've sought the advice of counsel regarding the imposition of the bonds. And as it says here, essentially per Public Act 12-182 of the Connecticut General Statutes, the Zoning Commission does not appear to have the authority to impose a bond requirement unless it is for, 1, site improvements that will be conveyed to or controlled by the town, 2, erosion and sediment control required during construction, and it had, based upon your comments and the comments of the town attorney, in order to be compliant with the law, it seems that this would be the appropriate action for us to take. So,
Thank you. Any other discussion? Nope, pretty much covered? Good. Okay. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? So moved. Passes 5-0. Mr. Henrik?
Motion to approve the minutes of the April 24, 2019 meeting.
We have a motion by Mr. Henrik to approve the minutes. Do I have a second? By Mr. Vacola. All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Opposed? So moved. Campsite plan review for 318 Orchard Street, shoreline stabilization. Mr. Bansky.
Okay, so, notes here. So this came before the Zoning Board of Appeals in 2017, seeking to legalize the gaping walls that were established on the waterside portion of the property owner's property. The property owner essentially was trying to prevent his property from falling into the water with sea level rise or some of the high tides that we've been experiencing. Unfortunately, that there are lots of local regulations, and this is also a dual jurisdiction area with the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. At that point, the Zoning Board of Appeals denied the activity based on the recommendations given by DEEP. DEEP has been working with the applicant over the past year, a little over a year, and it looks like they've come up with a final plan that was approved by DEEP, and that letter was included in your mailer. However, we didn't receive the final feedback from Mr. John Goucher, who's the environmental analyst who would typically give our review to the commission for a CAM application. He sent me an email today, which I put out in front of everybody as a handout, and I'll just essentially summarize. So, essentially, what the homeowner did was a gabion wall are these metal cages that they fill with stones, and he's essentially using a stone wall within these metal cages along the low mean high water line. Part of the approval of this DEEP permit said that all the stones that were put within those cages had to be hand removed off-site. The applicant had taken the stone out of the cages and laid them along the perimeter of the high tide rack line. That was not shown on the plan, and that caused some concern from my office as well as from Mr. Goucher. So after talking with the applicant's environmental engineer and DEEP and myself, we figured it was a better idea for the zoning commission to table this until next month, until they are able to remove by hand the stones that they had taken out of the cages and laid on the ground and get them completely removed altogether. At that point, I think the zoning commission can confidently consider this application for approvals. And you all want to be making your votes on accurate plans. And currently, the way the site is, it's not reflective of the plans that were submitted. So I'll just leave it at that.
Mr. Hendrick?
Because it's an agenda item, can we just extend it or just leave it there without tabling it?
You can.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, zoning enforcement study.
One last question
Davey.
before we go. So I guess I misconstrued one of the items in the letter. It says all work must be completed no later than June the 1st of 2019. That's the removal that has to be done within a week and a half?
Everything.
Everything?
So, everything.
Okay.
So they'll be having, unfortunately, because they weren't able to follow the recommendations that were given to them by DEEP, they're going to have to be dealing with whatever is associated with not meeting their timeline. You know, I think that the applicant has really put a good effort forward to correct his mistakes. I don't think always the best. I don't think he made the best decision by leaving the rocks on the ground. So, you know, I have a feeling DEEP will be flexible, given that they recommended we continue it another month as well, so that you all have the opportunity to vote on an accurate plan.
Okay.
But that's between DEEP and the applicant.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, zoning enforcement study, we have none at the moment. Accessory apartment application, sediment erosion, control application, planning projects, other items. 608 Ferry Boulevard, Associates LLC, Town of Stratford Zoning Commission settlement on a 20-unit affordable housing development with 2,500-foot office space.
I was just going to recommend that, as the chairman has done, to read the listing as it's been typed on the agenda, and that the zoning commission will take a vote to approve this item with the original conditions that were approved back in March. Other than the total number of units, all the other conditions apply.
All the other stipulations do apply as far as the fence, the
Correct.
Shrubbery, and everything else. Mr. Henrik, did you have a question?
It was my understanding that they would need to come back for a public forum again once this gets out of executive session and all the items are resolved.
Yeah, well, you know, I think when we were discussing it, they were unclear exactly in what form the application had to come back. And, you know, after speaking with, I can't remember if you were, Attorney Sullivan was involved, but Attorney Kelly and we spoke at length about this application with also the applicant's attorney, Attorney Rosati, and we made the determination that it does not need to come back for a public hearing. It just needs to be noticed on our agenda, and then the zoning commission can vote on it with the conditions that were originally approved with this application.
So as far as the number of units, is that something, and the makeup of the property, is that something that'll get resolved within the courts or within the discussions or negotiations with the attorneys? And we are out of that process now, or?
No. The number of units that you are voting on, as well as the 2,500 feet of office space, that's the total density that's going to be permitted at that site. You essentially would be approving that via this settlement.
So
tomorrow there's a court date, and they'll be relaying the information that the zoning commission gives tonight, and they'll be discussing it tomorrow in court for that settlement.
So the settlement is for a 20-unit affordable housing development with 2,500 square feet of office space?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay.
with all the other conditions that were approved. There was some landscaping, some other conditions.
So we would need a motion to approve the 20-unit affordable housing development with a 2,500 square foot office space, along with all the other stipulations that were currently approved.
And the way I would word it is you would want to be, and Attorney Sullivan can certainly chime in, but you would be approving the settlement between 608 Ferry Boulevard Associates LLC versus the Town of Stratford Zoning Commission for a 20-unit affordable housing, ... with the original conditions that were attached.
Okay. So then I guess I'll make a motion to approve the 608 Ferry Boulevard Associates LLC versus the Town of Zoning Commission settlement for a 20-unit affordable housing development and 2,500 square feet office space to include all currently, or not currently, all previously approved stipulations.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Henrik.
And if,
And I think you can direct Attorney, this is Attorney Kelly's, but you could direct Attorney Kelly to do the, to resolve it with the court. So that's.
well, once we approve it, that's kind of giving him the,
Right, that's your understanding, that that's
Yes.
what he's, if
Yes.
he's going to move forward with that, it's going to represent to the court that the commission agreed to this.
okay.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Henrik. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Solhavy. Any further discussion on the matter? I don't think we really do. Again, I'm going to stay consistent with the way I've been feeling and speaking on this matter all along, and I will be voting negative. But all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, 1. Passes 4-1. Mr. Henrik.
170 Orinoco Lane, the 18-month extension of an approval of the 11-unit condo development. Well, I guess you're supposed to read that, but
Okay. Okay.
it's not on the table, I was thinking.
170 Orinoco Lane, 18-month extension of approval of 11-unit condo development. Just like he said.
So on April 15th, 2019, we received a request for an extension of time for an additional 18 months to obtain a building permit for the 11-unit cluster development at 170 Orinoco Lane. Essentially, it's 11 single-family houses and some sort of a condominium setup. The applicant attached the previous extension that was granted by the Zoning Commission, and essentially, the zoning regulations grant me the authority to be able to grant extensions administratively, at least over the counter. But once it goes past a 5-year period, a 6-year period, I am forced to bring this back to the Zoning Commission for your consideration whether or not you would like to extend this approval or deny it.
So the first step would be to make a motion.
Mike, turn on the mic.
So the first step would be to make a motion to approve and then have discussion and then vote it either way?
Up or down?
Yeah. All right, so I'll make based on the required criteria, I'd make a motion to approve 170 Orinoco Lane, 18th month's extension of an approval of 11-unit condo development.
We have a motion on the table by Mr. Henrik. Do I have a second? By Mr. Wind. All those in favor say...
Discussion.
We got,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
sorry.
Any discussion on the matter?
Do you want to go first? Mr. Chairman, this is a property, I was actually on the zoning commission when we originally approved it. At the time, they went through a lot of work and effort to work with the neighbors. Since then, we've had a couple of different applications come on. There's landlines moving. There's talk of a new wetlands. There's a bunch of different issues going on with this property. We denied one of them. It's currently, I believe, in court. So I don't feel that it's in the best interest of this commission to extend this application. Or this application or this approval. There's too many different things going on at this time with that property, and to extend it we don't know where they're going. So I don't feel that we should, as a matter, just extend it as a gesture of good faith. I think we we need to get some clarification as to what they're doing before we do approve it. It has been a significant amount of time. There has been new information brought forward about the property, i.e. the wetlands. So I think at this point, I think it would be in the best interest of this commission to deny the approval and if they or the extension, and if they want to come forward with the application, re-present the thing from the start, present all the information, go through the inland wetlands, go through the proper channels, and you know, follow the proper criteria. So I can't approve it just because of the mess that surrounds it.
I agree with pretty much what you're saying in regards to newfound information. I believe changes a lot of things. So I would support what you're along those lines, Mr. Henrik. Mr. Silhavy?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I want to emphasize the text that's actually in the approval. I was on the commission at the point when this was approved. And it says very clearly here, pursuant to Section 20 of the zoning regulations, final plan shall be submitted within 6 months or this approval becomes null and void. Null and void. So we can't extend something that's dead, basically, unless we have some compelling reason to do so. So that is, let's start there. And there's been so many attempts to do some development in this area. And while we were sitting here, I was trying to look it up because there was even a previous, if we want to talk about a precedent of the Zoning Commission, there was a previous development that was for what they would call an active adult housing small development on the property. And the time frame had expired for that. And on October the 22nd, 2013, this board went so far as to actually repeal the regulation that allowed for the creation of that. I remember I said because I submitted the regulation change. So, and then everything that's come through, how is it that the issues, as Commissioner Henrik said, that have jeopardized the approval of the other item on the adjoining property, we need to examine these. And so there is information that has changed since 2013, 6.5 years ago. And, while it says in the regulations that, it has to come back before us, as I'm sure Commissioner Henrik and I have a fairly good memory, but, I'm sure we would have to review what was being proposed so long ago and allow other members that were not sitting on the board or anything that we might have forgotten in 6.5 years a chance to evaluate it. So I think for all of these reasons, I concur that an extension, we've given extensions, we've maxed out. I think this commission has been very generous with its extensions, but there is a point where you have to say, okay, enough, and too much time has passed since the initial approval, and it needs to be start over or and bring forth the information and bring forth testimony that addresses the concerns that have been raised since the time of 2013. So I would oppose an extension.
Okay, any further discussion on it? Okay. You want a roll call vote? No. Okay. So we have a motion by Mr. Henrik to approve with a second. All those in favor say aye. Seeing none. All those opposed? No. Pat, it fails 5-0, 0-5. Is 0-5 close enough? Goal settings. Do we have anything on the methadone clinic? Right. And do we have to talk more about that? Yes, we do.
Well, yeah, it was maybe in March, I can't remember when I added this in bold on here, that the moratorium for methadone clinics does expire on June 6th. There's been a lot going on here in the Zoning Commission, and it's tough finding an extra hour or two at the end of our meetings to really sit down and hash out what the commission feels is most appropriate for the town regarding methadone clinics. and either their approval or prohibition here in town going forward. I know there was talk about potentially a member of the zoning commission and the planning commission kind of getting together, gathering some information, and then possibly having a collaborative meeting between the two. That has not materialized, and not for a lack of trying. I think that, just the commission, it's been a busy year for both commissions. So, I'd be happy to put together another year extension on that moratorium for our next month, if that's something the zoning commission wants to instruct me to do. I'm not sure there's enough time to pull anything meaningful together in terms of lifting this moratorium in between now and next month, but I'll leave that to all your discretion.
Mr. Henrik?
So this expires 6/6/19. We won't be meeting before the expiration of it. Do we have the ability at this moment to extend that moratorium?
No, we don't. Not without proper notice, not without advertising in the paper. But you should take comfort in knowing that today was the deadline for the June agenda, and I did not receive any methadone clinic applications. So we're clear for next month.
Okay. So then if we could do something at the next meeting and have it on the agenda, so we have the ability at that point, if this commission so decides to extend that moratorium?
I'd be happy to do so. When I originally proposed this moratorium last year, I proposed a 2-year. I just didn't think that 1 year was enough time for us. So I'll leave it to your direction. If you would like a 1 year or a 2-year, I'll leave that up to you folks.
Let's advertise it as a 2-year, and then we can amend it from there.
That sounds fair. Okay. Seeing nothing else on the goal settings, anybody want to make a motion to adjourn? Motion by Mr. Salevi, second by Mr. Henrik. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? So moved. Thank you very much, everyone.